Colonel Mark Bradley leans back, arms crossed. The Merlin weighs 420 pounds more than the Allison. You'll destroy the aircraft's center of gravity. She be unflyable. We move the radiator forward, extend the fuselage by 4 inches. The weight balances. Hitchcock's voice is steady, but his collar is damp with sweat. The engine mounts are completely different. An engineer from North American interjects. You're talking about re-engineering the entire forward section. Months of development, maybe years. We don't have years. Hitchcock slaps the table. Papers jump. We're losing bombers every day. Every single day, boys are burning alive over Bremen and Hamburg because we can't protect them above 20,000 feet. The Luftwaffe knows our ceiling. They wait up high and dive through our formations like wolves through sheep. Silence. Heavy and uncomfortable. A Packard executive clears his throat. Even if this is a substantial if we could manufacture the Merlin under license here in Detroit. You're asking us to bet everything on an unproven modification. What if it doesn't work? Hitchcock pulls out a photograph. It's grainy, taken from a B-17's gun camera. Shows a formation of bombers, tight and disciplined. In the background, barely visible, are the contrails of German fighters, high, untouchable, patient. Then we keep losing, Hitchcock says quietly, and we lose this war. The room shifts, papers rustle, someone coughs. Bradley stands, walks to the window, overlooking the Detroit River. Ice is forming along the banks. He's thinking about production lines, about the political nightmare of putting a British engine in an American fighter, about what Congress will say, what the newspapers will print. But he's also thinking about his nephew, a B-17 pilot stationed in England, who writes letters describing how it feels to watch enemy fighters circling overhead, just out of reach of American escorts. One prototype, Bradley says, not turning around. You get one aircraft, one engine. If you can prove this works, he finally looks at Hitchcock. We'll talk about production. But if you're wrong, Hitchcock, you'll have wasted resources we can't spare and time we don't have. Hitchcock nods once, sharp, certain. I'll need 3 months. You have 6 weeks. The meeting ends. Men file out, muttering about bureaucracy and impossible timelines. Hitchcock remains, staring at his drawings. He's just promised to redesign one of America's most complex fighters in 42 days. He reaches for the phone, dials a number he's memorized. This is Hitchcock. Get me Bob Chilton at North American. Tell him we're going to need his best team. And tell them to cancel Christmas. The line crackles with static. Then, sir, they're going to say this is impossible. Hitchcock lights a cigarette, watches the smoke curl toward the ceiling. Good. Then they won't see it coming. November 12, 1942. Wright Field, Ohio. 8 for 7 hours. The P-51 Mustang sits on the frozen tarmac like a sculpture of wasted potential, sleek, beautiful, utterly useless above 15,000 feet. Captain James Howard circles the aircraft, exhaling white clouds into the morning cold. He's flown her twice now. Both times, the same nightmare climbing through 12,000 feet. Engine performance bleeding away like a wounded animal. By 18,000, the Allison V1710 engine is gasping. By 20,000, enemy fighters dance circles around him while he claws for altitude that won't come. She's fast down low, Howard mutters to his crew chief. But this war isn't being fought at tree level. He's right. Over Europe, Luftwaffe fighters rule the sky above 25,000 feet. The B-17 bombers desperately need escorts who can climb with them, stay with them, protect them in the thin air where wars are won or lost. The P-51, she can barely breathe up there. North American aviation built her in just 117 days. A miracle of engineering speed, aluminum, shaped by desperation and British contracts. But speed of construction means nothing when your fighter can't fight where it matters. The Army Air Corps is losing patience. Pilots are losing faith. Some are calling her the flying coffin with good looks. In a hangar 300 yards away, a mechanic named Tommy Hitchcock is staring at something that shouldn't exist in an American facility. A Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, British-made, 61 liters of supercharged Fury. The same engine pushing Spitfires to altitudes the P-51 can only dream about. Hitchcock isn't supposed to have it. Officially, it's here for evaluation. Unofficially, Hitchcock has been losing sleep over a single, dangerous question. What if we're using the wrong engine? He runs his hand along the Merlin's cold casing. Every engineer at Wright Field has told him the same thing. The P-51's airframe is designed around the Allison. The mounts won't fit. The weight distribution will be wrong. The cooling system is incompatible. You'd have to redesign half the aircraft. Hitchcock doesn't care about half the aircraft. He cares about the boys dying over Germany because their escorts can't reach them. He pulls out a measuring tape, starts calculating angles, clearances, possibilities. His hands are shaking not from cold, but from the realization forming in his mind like ice crystals in supercooled air. This might actually work. Outside, another P-51 fires up its Allison engine. The sound is smooth, refined, almost elegant. Inside the hangar, Hitchcock stares at the Merlin and imagines a different sound. Rougher, angrier, powerful enough to change everything. But first, he'll have to convince everyone that rebuilding America's most promising fighter around a British engine isn't insanity. It's survival. December 3, 1942. Inglewood, California. North American Aviation Factory. 412 hours. Sleep is a memory. The factory floor runs 24 hours now, bathed in harsh industrial light that turns everything the color of old bone. 63 engineers and mechanics work in rotating shifts, fueled by coffee that tastes like battery acid and the knowledge that boys their age are dying in European skies. Bob Chilton hasn't seen his wife in 11 days. He stands before P-51 serial number 4137352, the sacrificial lamb, the test bed, the aircraft that will either validate Hitchcock's madness or prove that desperation makes men stupid. The Allison engine is already gone torn out like a rotten tooth. The Merlin sits on a transport dolly beside the exposed engine bay, and the problem is immediately, brutally obvious. Nothing fits. The propeller shaft is 3 inches lower on the Merlin, says Eddie Horkey, lead engineer, his voice flat with exhaustion, which means we need to redesign the entire engine mount structure, and the reduction gearbox interferes with the main bulkhead. So we modify the bulkhead, Chilton responds, which affects structural integrity across the whole forward fuselage. Then we reinforce it. With what time, Bob? We're 12 days in. We've got 30 left. Chilton walks closer to the aircraft, runs his hand along the exposed framework. You can see the bones of the machine now, the elegant skeleton that made the P-51 so promising. He's about to break half of them and hope she heals stronger. The radiator, Chilton says suddenly. Tommy said move it forward. How far forward? Horkey pulls out a drawing, marked up in Hitchcock's aggressive handwriting. 14 inches. Puts it directly under the pilot's seat. Someone whistles low. That's a lot of weight forward. That's the point, Chilton mutters. The Merlin's heavier in the nose. This balances it. He looks up at his team. 20 men with all stained hands and bloodshot eyes. We cut the fuselage behind the cockpit, extend it 4 inches, redistribute the weight across a longer frame. You want to make her longer. A mechanic named Paulson sounds incredulous. We're supposed to be building a fighter, not a damn bus. 4 inches won't hurt maneuverability, but it'll save the center of gravity. Chilton taps the drawing. We do this right. She handled better than before, tighter, more responsive. The team exchanges looks. This isn't modification anymore. This is surgery without anesthesia, performed on a patient that might not survive. But they get to work. By December 10th, the fuselage is sectioned and extended. Welders work in clouds of sparks that smell like thunder. The new engine mounts are fabricated from scratch, stronger, heavier, designed to handle forces the Allison never generated. The radiator relocation requires rerouting every coolant line, redesigning the scoop intake, recalculating airflow dynamics. December 24, 1942, Mines Field, Los Angeles. 923 hours. Bob Chilton stands on the tarmac with a clipboard. He's gripping hard, enough to leave fingerprints in the metal. Beside him, Tommy Hitchcock stares at the rebuilt P-51 like a father watching his son leave for war. The pilot they've chosen is Robert C. Bob Johnson, North American's chief test pilot. 31 years old, 5,000 flight hours. A man so calm under pressure that other pilots joke he has antifreeze in his veins. Right now, even Johnson looks nervous. He walks around the aircraft one final time, checking control surfaces, peering into the air intake, running his hand along the extended fuselage. She feels heavier forward, he says. She is, Chilton admits, but the math says she balance. Math. Johnson smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Math also said bumblebees can't fly. That's a myth, Hitchcock interjects. Bumblebees fly fine. The equations were just wrong. It should. We got the equations right. Johnson climbs into the cockpit. The Merlin idles. Beneath him a barely contained fury that makes the whole aircraft tremble. He runs through his pre-flight checklist with the methodical precision of a man who knows that skipping steps kills people. Throttle response, smooth. Control surfaces, full deflection. Fuel mixture, optimal. All pressure, green. Everything reads normal, but nothing about this is normal. Tower, this is Mustang 352. Request clearance for test flight. Altitude 30,000, duration 90 minutes. The radio crackles. 352, you're cleared. Godspeed, Bob. Johnson releases the brakes. The Merlin snarls. The P-51 lunges forward like something that's been caged too long. Takeoff roll is shorter than expected. Johnson rotates at 95 knots, and she leaps into the California morning sky with an eagerness that catches him off guard. The climb rate is absurd, 2,800 feet per minute, nearly double what the Allison-powered version could manage. Jesus, Johnson breathes into his mask. She wants to fly. At 10,000 feet, he levels off, tests the controls. The extended fuselage has changed her, made her more stable in pitch, tighter in roll. She responds like a scalpel instead of a club. He pushes the throttle forward. The Merlin screams. The airspeed indicator swings past 380 miles per hour, faster than any American fighter in service. And they're still climbing. At 20,000 feet where the Allison would be, dying, the Merlin is just getting started. Johnson watches the manifold pressure hold steady. The supercharger kicks into high gear with a mechanical whine he can feel through the airframe. She's not struggling. She's accelerating. March 15, 1943, RAF Debden, England. 1647 hours. The P-51 Mustangs sit on the rain-soaked tarmac like predators that have just learned to hunt. For months since Johnson's test flight, for months of frantic production at Inglewood assembly lines retooled, workers trained, engines shipped from Packard's Detroit facility, faster than anyone thought possible. The first operational squadron, the 354th Fighter Group, arrived in England 3 weeks ago. The pilots didn't trust them at first. Lieutenant David Archer remembers his first impression standing in the hangar at Boxted, staring at the Merlin-powered Mustang, listening to veterans trash talk the aircraft they hadn't even flown yet. Looks fast, someone said. Looks British, another replied, spitting the word like a curse. Allison couldn't get the job done. Why should this? Because the Allison never had 1,650 horsepower and a two-stage supercharger. Because boys are dying. Because the B-17s go out every day and come back with holes you could crawl through, and empty seats where gunners used to be. Today is the proof. Archer climbs into his cockpit, aircraft number 431 to 434. Fresh paint still smelling of solvent. The mission briefing was simple. Escort the 8th Air Force bombers to Augsburg, deep into Germany, deeper than American fighters have ever gone and returned. The Luftwaffe knows the P-47 Thunderbolts run out of fuel around Stuttgart. They know the Spitfires can't reach past the Rhine. They've been waiting at those limits, circling like sharks at the edge of safe water, knowing American bombers must eventually fly alone into the killing zone. Not today. Archer fires up the Merlin. The sound shivers through his chest, angry, powerful, nothing like the refined Allison. His flight leader, Captain James Howard, the same Howard who circled the prototype in Ohio, keys the radio. Blue flight, this is Blue leader. We're going all the way today. Stay sharp. They won't expect us this deep. 16 Mustangs roll onto the runway. The formation takes off in pairs, climbing through England's perpetual cloud cover into clear sky at 15,000 feet. Ahead, barely visible as specks against the horizon, are 48 B-17 Flying Fortresses, the 306th Bombardment Group, laden with bombs and hope. The bombers see the Mustangs and waggle their wings. Recognition, relief. The fighters form up in escort positions, high, low, and flanking. The formation turns southeast, toward Germany, toward the Wolves. They cross the Rhine at 25,000 feet. The radio stays silent, but everyone knows what this means. This is past the limit, past where American fighters go. Archer scans the sky. Nothing yet. Then Howard's voice crackles. Bandits. 12 o'clock high. Coming down. Archer sees them, black dots resolving into Focke-Wulf 190s. Maybe 20 aircraft, diving from 30,000 feet. They're expecting thunderbolts. Maybe a few exhausted Spitfires limping for home. Before his death, Preddy scores 26.83 confirmed kills.